organization was to bring a marketing strategy to the company. We were having issues with the adoption of our products, reaching our customers, and we did not have I'll say, a contemporary approach to getting to them. So maybe you and I have something in common. Maybe you are not a marketing professional, didn't go to school for that. You have an idea, you're in a business and you're trying to be successful, and you want to reach customers and you want them to understand what you have to sell to them and to grow and to do better. That is not unlike the situation that I had late in my career. We did not have a corporate marketing department, and I was not a marketing professional. So I was challenged, maybe as you are challenged, to figure out how to make a difference for the company. There were two schools of thought. There was I'll say the traditional thought, which was based on the 4 Ps that everyone, I believe, does know. And then there was a developing thought of a more contemporary approach. Most people were taught and continue to be taught on the 4 Ps of marketing. I'm going to take you in a different direction today. I want to take you down this path that we developed around contemporary marketing. And I have 2 objectives in this short presentation. If I could summarize how I'd like you to feel about your business when you leave today, I want to inspire you and give you some confidence to, number one, be the expert in the business that you either have or contemplating to launch. There's a reason why you're on the call. You're either doing something or contemplating it. You have some insight, and but you may be anxious about that. But I want you to believe that you may know more about that than anybody today, or certainly you need to be. So number one, contemporary marketing is about expertise in the area that you're pursuing. And then just as importantly, you have to be found. Your customers have to find you. So how I want to achieve that in this short time together is through this agenda. I want to talk about SAVE, that's the acronym for contemporary marketing, and how it reflects the challenges that I had in the later part of my career and what we were trying to do at a very large company, and what I think you probably have with your business or your concept that you want to take to market. I believe to be successful with that, you have to exploit the power of the web. That is where people go to learn, research, and find. That's how you can express your expertise. That's how you can be found. And in all presentations, I like to leave you with some thoughts around some homework, some challenges that I think could help you on how to get started and what are the next steps. So the 4 Ps again, you probably all heard them. This is the old way: product, place, price, promotion. I want to encourage you to think instead about solutions for your customers' problems, how customers access your product solutions. How do they think about the value that you're bringing, not the price that they're paying, and how to help them down their education journey. So that's the acronym that I want to use. A little more history. 4 Ps, they were developed in the 60s. This is a Madison Avenue, large company, mass marketing approach that developed after World War II, when products exploded, customers' buying power was very high. Customers weren't very knowledgeable. They were being educated by manufacturers as to what was available. There was explosions in so many categories: automobiles, plastics, home furnishings, you name it. So it was about pushing a message. And it could be very easily pushed through very organized and very narrow channels. Big three television, maybe a little bit of radio, some billboards, well-established newspapers. They were very clear, defined ways to get to consumers. And it was very oriented in what the producer makes. I'm pushing something to you. And it relied on the rule of seven. The rule of seven is to, if you're going to learn something that you hear, you need to hear it 7 times. So you're just bombarded by this. You're still bombarded by this. This is still the way that most large companies that at least sell to consumers pursue their markets today. They're more challenged doing this because the channels are not nearly as organized. They're completely fractured all over the place, so many different ways to learn. And customers are much more educated and knowledgeable than they ever were. So in the 2000s, and what our company pursued and it approached was the acronym of SAVE. And it recognizes that there are very knowledgeable buyers, and buyers can become very knowledgeable. It recognizes that most research around a product or a solution is done online, done on the web, and it's much more consumer oriented about what it is that the pain point that we're trying to solve for the customer. So the first one of these I'd like you to think about is, let's stop talking about products and let's talk about solutions. So it was that from a product promotion standpoint, very big on features and benefits. You see this again, automobiles, appliances, features and benefits. It's what I make. I'm making something and I'm pushing it to you. I'm going to suggest that your business, your idea, what you're thinking about, you're trying to solve some problem. And I want you to think in terms of, what is this problem solving for the customer? Not in terms of features or benefits or functional technical superiority, but what is the pain point? So that you put yourself in the perspective of the buyer of, how is my need being solved? This is harder. This is harder than developing a product and pushing it to the market. I saw this in our very sophisticated $3 billion company, heavy technology, engineering focus. We would want to look at competitive products. We would want to make Me Too or competitive offerings and slightly change the performance on a features standpoint to try to compete. It's harder to try to understand who your customer is, consider that they have multiple ways of solving that problem, and trying to find how to best do that. It takes in-depth work. And it's about articulating how you're solving this customer pain point. And there's many different ways to do that, and you need to recognize that. You got to put yourself in their shoes. And then think about all the ways that you're communicating with them with that product. So it's not just the product itself, it's the packaging, if it's a packaged product. If it's something that they have to use or apply, are you creating a way that they can use your product appropriately? Are you recording and looking at the testimonials and the way that they're doing this? Are you looking at and understanding how it's working well for a customer or how it's not working well for a customer, and integrating that back into your solution? Solution marketing, solution product development is harder, but it does create a more unique space. I'm going to assume or consider that all the folks on this call are this business that they are considering or in do not have untold millions to pursue, millions of dollars to pursue tens of thousands of customers and take away a small percentage and compete Me Too like for like, maybe compete on price. I don't think that's the business that you're in. I wouldn't encourage it even if you were at any size business. So finding that solution that you can carve out that solves that pain point uniquely, that is the big challenge. And it is a outside in approach. So the 4Ps really supported an inside out. We make something, push it out. We had this issue in our company. We make something, push it out. Wasn't getting the adoption or customer sales that we wanted. You have to stop and think about, it's really an outside in approach. But who are those customers and what are their needs? So I'm going to take you down this little process here now for a couple slides that I want you to think about. Is there's some homework in here. This is some things that I want you to do. If you're not doing today, it's to think more in depth, more critically about who your customers are. Most people do not do this. Most of people in large professional organizations do an inadequate job of this. And I'd say every one of my mentoring experiences to date with SCORE, this was lacking. And I think this is so critical. First is segmenting your customers. And it's putting them into groups that have common responses so that you can develop your approach, your marketing action, the thing that you're going to do to help that to apply SAVE, that acronym, that action. First segment them. So here's just an example. This, we approached company buyers. You could be approaching college students. You can read the rest of them. And I want you to consider all the ways that you can segment them through their demographics, psychographics, their behavior, and their geography. You can look each one of those up. You can understand each one of those. I'm going to encourage that you need to think about each one of your customer groups, put them in groups so that then you can develop a more sophisticated approach. So first you segmented them in groups. Now I want you to develop a persona. And you say, Mike, well, this seems kind of silly, but no, this is very helpful. This is helpful both to put a face and a name and a description on who is your ideal buyer, your ideal customer, and how might they behave, and how are they going to consider your solution. So make a fictional character. And you can, and if you have more than, if your company is made up than more than yourself, you can talk to your employees in this term. So here was one for that was relevant for us. It would be a company buyer. We sold technical products, electric motors, to companies that use them. So this would be a very typical buyer. A 35-year-old with a bachelor's in electrical engineering. They're a member of a purchasing society. They certainly use their computer to research their products. They had a measurement. They're responsible for delivering year-over-year cost reductions, typically in the 3%. They wouldn't make major decisions, though. They would refer them up to their boss. That would be another persona, that boss, how we're going to talk to them. Fred would be very active on LinkedIn. You could have one, let's say you do have a storefront. You're selling ice cream down the street from the high school. So what is the segment of the customers that might buy your ice cream? High school kids, grade school kids, whatever the school is. The parents, perhaps, that are coming and picking up and taking the kid home. Who is that typical person? Is the kid a boy or a girl? Is the parent a man or a woman? Are they likely to stop on the way home? What types of ice cream might they be most interested in? Are the parents health conscious and are going to look for things that are more healthy? Are the kids more interested in something else? So in that case, this ice cream business down the street from the school, it's your strategy. you would have a couple personas for the ideal customer that might pursue you. And that would shape in future points here how you would reach them, and ultimately what kind of product that you would make or promote to them. So the second thing is, where is that physical or virtual place that you're reaching your customer? Instead of place, which used to be a geographical location, I just mentioned an ice cream store. If anybody's in here that would be interesting, that's pursuing an ice cream business, probably many of you are not going to have a brick and mortar or geographical location. That has changed dramatically. Certainly post-COVID, certainly with the power of the web and the internet and this very small planet that we live on now, that you can communicate and access information on a global basis. So now, rather than just the place, which is an antiquated 1960s approach to buying and selling, need to think about the journey and being accessible anywhere, anytime, on any device. And again, now the customer persona matters. How they're going to pursue you will matter based on their persona. It'll matter on what kind of device they use. It'll matter on what kind of social media or way they get their education or their information. So plotting the access through a journey map for each of the personas of your target customers, to me, is vitally important. And the more, I'll say, the more significant the purchase, the less frequently that a customer might buy or consider your offering, the more likely they're going to spend more time on their own education online, getting educated about different options, hopefully your option, before they ever reach out to a human being. And recognizing that and plotting that by the persona that you're pursuing, I think, is critically important. If I'm going to assume that most of the folks on here are talking about a customer contact list in the hundreds, tens, hundreds, maybe in the few thousands of customers that you, at least initially, maybe later you'll have a much bigger customer contact database or customer reach, but at tens, hundreds, and small thousands, you can put them into groups and you can get a good sense of how are they going to find you. Remember, I said that my first two objectives were to be an expert and to be found. So how are they going to find you? Are they going to find you from a billboard or a radio ad? Or are they going to find you which is the very first of these? Are you going to saturate the airwaves with a very large promotional budget that gets your name and your idea out there? Or are you going to be found on a Google search? Understanding getting your best view of how people are going to find you will shape all of your investments, and should shape all your investments into your decisions and how you're going to approach them. Otherwise, you're wasting time, because today's customer, all of you are over targeted, over bombarded through so many different means. So you don't have the luxury, like back in the 60s, of a very controlled market that you can reach to by just simply putting an ad on the TV station at 6 o'clock at night. You have to consider all these ways that people can get you. So I have an exercise that I'd like you to do as a homework. Someone asked, I'll just remind at the beginning of this presentation, yes, this is being recorded. And yes, you will get a copy of the slides after this is over. So later, I would encourage you to do an exercise. Do it with your friends. Do it with people that are close to you that know what you're trying to do. Maybe provide some alcohol and some hors d'oeuvres and get them loosened up and ask them, how would they find my solution? How, friend, how would you find my solution? How would you, and there's a number of, somebody that's talking, please put your microphone on mute. How would you find me? So here's some lead-in questions. You could probably have just as many or more. So if I'm looking for ice cream, how do I find the best ice cream or low-fat ice cream? What are the best places to find ice cream? Where can I find the ice cream? What's the best way to eat ice cream? Whatever it is, fill in your solution to this question. Then go to Google and type that question in and see where you come back. I'm gonna, if you don't today, one of the action items, if you don't today, you need to get a web domain. You need to create a page. It needs to feature who you are in your solution. So I'm assuming you have that. So how is somebody going to find you? Because most people are going to start on a generic search engine line. How do I fill in the blank? Find out where you come back, where you are shown in that search results. The goal has to be page one. The goal has to be page one for your business, for your concept, for your solution. You've got to be on page one. Does anybody go past page one on search returns? Maybe you do because the first 10 are ads. And like me, you skip past all the ads and you go to the first organic search return. And that search return came back because there was some domain expertise that Google acknowledged and put you or that answer at the highest organic return. That needs to be you. That needs to be you in all cases for all of the key ways that somebody would ask to find your solution to their problem. I have a problem. They're going to type it in. You need to be the number one organic return for that. So the exercise is set the baseline. Find out where, for all those questions that you asked, how to find yourself, where did you come up? What number on the organic? And now start doing some research on the keywords and the relevant queries that solidify those ways that somebody's going to look for you. And now I want you to start publicizing optimized content. And I'll talk about what that means in a minute. But you're the expert in the business, the concept that you're pursuing. You need to demonstrate that on your website, that you have some domain expertise, some thought leadership on this topic, so that Google will see you as a very relevant response to promote very highly in their organic returns. Once you analyze the backlinks, links are when somebody else wrote a blog or in their website or in their content referenced you. So people may reference you as an expert. That's ideal. Explore any technical issues to see what things are not happening and stay informed and continue to know where you are returning on search results. Here's an example. I've used this a number of times now. I think it's a very simple example and it gets my point across. I go to Google and I say, I live here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I say, what are the coffee shops in Fort Wayne? So page one on the left there, you can see, well, there's Yelp, TripAdvisor, Foursquare, Lyft. The first organic return, Conjure Coffee, hand roasted in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's a page one return. Great for Conjure Coffee. Go to page two. I see the Friendly Fox. That's another coffee outlet. And I see Crescendo. That's another coffee outlet. I'm going to suggest that page 2 might as well be page 10 from a search results standpoint. So why did Conjure Coffee come up on page 1? And it was very simple, very simple. Conjure Coffee wrote some blogs about how to brew, make, craft coffee. And what's interesting, I just checked this a couple hours ago because this is an old slide now. You can see the blog down there. It says January 30, 2020. That's the last time they wrote a blog. So 4 years ago, they wrote a blog. I gave this presentation this spring. They were the #1 search return. They're not today. They're number 2. They got replaced by another coffee outlet. I can't tell why they got replaced. The new #1 does not have a blog. So something in Google's search criteria algorithms promoted this other company higher up. I don't know what it is. Google will never explain that, but I can be pretty confident that 4-year-old blogs are not fresh. They're not relevant. They may have actually gotten negative points for not having, they have a blog that then hasn't been updated in 4 years. They may have actually, that it may not be as much about the other company, but more that Conjure got pushed down because they haven't stayed relevant. The Friendly Fox, no blogs. Crescendo, no blogs. So at the time, one simple blog was meaningful to their customers, meaningful to the search return, and I'll say even meaningful to their employees, because it expressed that at Conjure Coffee, there was some domain expertise in how coffee was crafted. And if I was a barista, that's where I would rather work than somebody that's not putting leadership thought into it. It's not that hard. You're pursuing a business or a concept or an idea, you need to have some expertise. You need to present it. You need to show it to the market, and Google will reward you for that. And I believe your customers will also. Second item on a digital strategy. So much of how I want you to pursue customers is of course here digitally. It's not through a storefront or brick and mortar. So the second one will be, let's think about a website. This maybe is a less relevant, but I still think it's an important point to make. It needs to be mobile first. What does that mean? It means that if you are developing a site or you're paying somebody to help you develop a site, it's developed for your mobile phone, a mobile phone. And all your conversations with the developer, all your improvement needs to be in a mobile format, the way the images and the content would display vertically on a phone, not horizontally widescreen on a desktop like I'm looking at today. There are still way too many websites today that are developed on a desktop and are forced to adapt, forced to translate to a mobile experience, and they're objectionable. And maybe you see those, maybe you don't. I still see too many of them. And we had experiences with website companies that wanted to show us their experience on the left, and we had to say, no, we will review everything and talk about everything on the experience on the right, because that's the way most searches are done. 5G has only accelerated that. So make sure your website is optimized for a mobile device. Next of save is value. So instead of pricing, and this is so hard, because this is the way we've all been trained, and this is the way most of us transact our daily lives. We think about the dollars in exchange for the product and services, and we go down the path of what sellers have pushed us to, which is the best product at the best price. I'm going to assume you're not competing in that space. The mass marketing, Me Too, lots of options for the same thing that you're pursuing. If you are, that's going to be an ugly business. I would call that a red ocean business because you're competing on price. Because we went back at started with this with a solution that you're solving unique pain points that are relevant to the customer. Now you can talk about value as it relates to those benefits. And the value of what you're selling needs to exceed the price of what they're paying. The best opportunity, if you can do it here, is to understand is if your customer has a problem, a need, what is it costing them to solve that, either today by themselves or through other means? And you figure that out. Um, if you're in the babysitting business, what is it costing them to not work because they're having to be home to babysit their child? Or if you're in the landscape business, what is it costing them to not to what is the lost opportunity that's happening to them, and figure it out and use that as you're providing a value, you doing it instead of them doing it. What's it worth? Not which is so common and so easy. Well, I have some labor, I have some employees, I have some direct material cost, and I'm going to add some margin that I think is fair. I hear that a lot. I don't want to take advantage of my customer, so I'm going to add something that I think is fair, and I come up with a price. So that's called cost plus pricing, and it can have your product priced too low, or it can have your product priced too high. I'd argue it typically has products priced too low because you're not fully understanding what benefits you're providing to the customers, or what pain points or things you're solving for them. I like to use this slide. I would encourage that you not be in this position that Warren Buffett talks about. He will measure a business. Single most important decision evaluating a business is pricing power. So Warren Buffett, he leads Berkshire Hathaway, and it's a conglomeration of hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses of all different shapes and sizes in different markets, and its pricing power is what he considers. And so if you got the power to raise price without losing to business, you got a good business. To losing business competitor, you've got a good business. If you have to have a prayer session before raising the price 10%, then you got a terrible business. So might be a harsh statement. Consider it for your journey and where you are and what you're pursuing or doing, and don't fall into this. Try to stay away from this issue. I like to add this slide because I think pricing is so important. So from a little education standpoint, if you don't already know this, what does a 10% price reduction mean to my business? And it is the most important lever that you have to pull, action that you can take or not take on the profitability of your business is pricing. It's think about that. It is the most important thing you will do, good or bad, well or not so well, on the profitability of your business. So here's the example. Initial price on the left, let's say you sell something for $1 and you have cost of 80 cents. That's all cost, material, direct, indirect, labor, overhead, all in 80 cents. You're selling for $1. You got a margin of 20 cents. That's your profit. That's after all your work. That's what you get to reinvest, to deal with issues, to deal with bad debt, to deal with collectibles from customers that don't pay. Everything is in there, 20%. This is not a good business, by the way, at only 20%, but let's keep the example simple. So now you're presented with the desire from somebody to reduce your prices for whatever reason. Somebody says, well, I'll buy more of these if you'll reduce your price, or just give me a break, give me a good guy discount. So you reduce the price 10%. Now it's 90 cents, cost is 80. Your margin is 10 cents, 10%. So I sold 100 units on the left and a margin of 20 bucks. I sold 100 units on the right. I have a margin of $10. Margin is the only thing that matters. Whether how many units you sell, that's just work. And that's just cost and work. Margin is what matters. So I get $20 on the left, $10 on the right. If I provide a 10% price reduction on a 20% margin business, that would require I have to sell twice as many units. I have to do twice the work to generate the same margin. Got to think in terms of margin dollars. So now I have to, on the right, I have to sell 200 units. So a customer says, well, yeah, I'll buy more if you'll give me a 10% price reduction. In this example, they'd have to double their order and just to have the same margin as your starting point. So you'd have to make more than double the units for it to actually be an increase in margin dollars. I'll leave you with this table. It's a very meaningful table. We had sophisticated engineers that needed and product marketers that needed to understand this table in our business. So I think it's relevant. I'll quickly go through it. You'll have it so you can study it later. Number one at the top, if your present margin is, so you find your margin, it needs to be way to the right for everybody on the phone here. But we'll use this 20% example again, circled in red. And somebody you got to reduce your price by. There's my 10% example, the column down the left. To produce the same profit's all that matters, margin dollars are all that matters, you must increase your sales volume by 100%. So even far to the right, respectable 50 plus margin businesses, 10% price reductions can mean you have to do 25, 30% more pieces, sales, items, scoops of ice cream than you did before just to have the same margin. So protect this, be passionate about this. Pricing is the most important profitability lever or action a business owner can take from a profitability standpoint. Last part of the 4 Ps. So rather than promotion, let's think about education. So promotion was or is the communication that aims at promoting to the group of target customers, and it's a core tenet of advertising. So a lot of people, marketing and advertising often gets connected with marketing. Lots of advertising spend. Back at our $3 billion company, there were old school people on the board of directors. Paul, we want you to do more advertising. We want you to be in more magazines. We want our name out there. A lot of money is what that takes to create some number of impressions. Whether it meets the rule of 7 or not would be questionable. You'd have to do a lot. Unfortunately, it's very easy for consumers to tune in or to tune out. So for our large business that had a small group of customers that had very specific needs, for your potential businesses and group of customers that are trying to figure out whether or not they need what you have, instead of promotion, think about education. So again, promote your expertise, your thought leadership, develop that, become a writer, become someone, if you're not, they can put their thoughts down, have it reviewed by others, peers, your spouse, your friends, that convey your thoughts about what it is you're pursuing, provide relevant information, depending on wherever the purchasing pointer in the cycle, remember the life cycle of the buying journey, different information is relevant at different points. make high quality content. I'll talk about high value or engaging actions here in a minute. So you got to have content. You know, the coffee example was as simple as a simple blog on what it means to roast coffee beans. That was high quality content in the eyes of Google that gave them a #1 search return. There's lots of ways to make high quality content. We'll talk about in a moment here, and focus the communications on what you're doing to help the customer with their needs and benefits, not the me too of my product, look at me. So the more you can do this, consumers will refer you, they'll become dependent on you, and they'll gain a familiarity with you because you've developed some expertise in here. So doing this through your website, through your digital strategy, means getting customers to engage in high value actions. So what are high value actions? They are actions taken by potential customers that nurture their buying journey. So they're going down this journey, however they started it. They saw your name on a billboard, or they did an organic search, or they've read about you in a magazine, or they saw you through some other link. They've started a journey and they're going down this journey. It may have a lot of steps, it may have a few steps, but every decision has a journey. So what can you do to create engagement with them? So on your website, have the opportunity for a prospective customer to watch a video, read a blog, chat with you or chat with a bot. This is becoming so easy to do now. And I'll say not objectionable. There's ways to have this be a meaningful chat. And if the chat bot cannot answer the question, it refers to you. And pretty soon you'll have something on autopilot if you can invest in this. And it is so easy to do now with the AI tools that are available. Have on your site linked content, things that link to other information. Download a white paper or a file. Very importantly, if you complete a follow-up contact form. Everybody should have a customer contact database. Even if your customers number in the thousands, certainly if in their tens, hundreds, you should have a customer contact database. You want customers, if a customer comes to your website, they've given you that much time and attention, there needs to be a way to capture them, to nurture them, and to market to them now for the decision that they're undertaking and in the future. And then you can see a number of videos. So I said, watch a video, types of videos, customer testimonials, introduction, a how-to, if you're selling a device or something, how do you use it properly, demonstrate it, some comparison. These are so easy to do. You can do them on your phone, never have one that's more than 3 minutes long, put them on your website. This will only help to demonstrate your domain expertise in the area and why a customer would want to come to you to learn about their problem and pursue your solution. So now we're to step 4. Let's nurture them. Nurture these customers down through this buying journey that I keep talking about. That you have now. You have a group of segmented customers. You've developed a number of personas. It may be 1 or 2, maybe 4 or 5 of the type of customer that would pursue you. You've developed for them, whenever it's unique, a unique buying journey. I'm going to assume that not all customers would have the same journey, but you can lay it out. You can lay out the steps that they're likely to take. And now they've pursued you. They found you because you're an expert. Google's returned you at the #1 return. They've done some engagement. They've left a cookie on your website. So let's retarget them. And that's about, you've got their attention. So now let's keep it. So we talked about search engine optimization. That's about configuring the site to make it relevant. So now let's do some retargeting, and it's cookie-based technology. This field is advancing very rapidly. You now see that pretty much every time you go to a website, anybody's website, you get that little question, are cookies allowed or not allowed? That was pretty much standard in Europe before I retired. Retired 4 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, we were dealing with that. The European Union was saying you have to tell a customer whether or not you're going to use cookies. So we thought about this. We developed our global strategy of the web in consideration that was probably coming back to the US, and it has. And now you see it every day. You can, I don't know. I deny them all the time. I deny all the cookies. Maybe you do too. I don't know what others are doing. Maybe this will be irrelevant before long, but don't give up on it yet. Because what cookies allow companies to do is to retarget, provide information back to that person that visited their website as they're visiting other websites. And you've probably had it done to you. This is a little dated, but this is one I was pursuing, looking at stand-up paddle boards. And I was served up an ad when I was on a different website. I was served up a paddleboard ad. The ones that do this really well, they know where I was on their paddleboard website to begin with. Was I at the very beginning and looking at paddleboard, big boards versus little boards, or did I get all the way to the shopping cart? Maybe I picked a paddleboard I was about to buy and I abandoned it. Good companies, good website companies that know this, and this is not hard to do. You can have this done for very inexpensively, or yourself if you're a little savvy and want to pursue this. All the instructions and the ability to do this are out there on the web. So I don't get into the details during this presentation because they're all out there. You can learn very quickly how to implement retargeting on your website, either through a third party paying them to do it or doing it yourself. So if I'm at the step of abandoning my shopping cart, the smart paddleboard company and the smart retargeting would send me an image when I'm somewhere else and say, Paul, if you'll come back and check out the shopping cart, we'll throw in a paddle or something, because they lost me. They had, and there was I was a hot buyer. I had gotten all the way to the end and they lost me. Don't let that happen. So any website with less than 100% conversion, if you've got people coming to your website and they're abandoning you on the first page, or they're abandoning you 2 clicks down, first of all, you need to figure out why your content isn't engaging enough to keep them, and then go get them back. Because I'm going to suggest maybe that you don't have thousands of customers. Every one of them is very precious and you've got to keep them. So retargeting, you're going to segment them. You're going to segment these customers by their actions, and you're going to set a limit to how many impressions you would send to them. You don't want to overdo it. You'd promote an offer or an information or a video or something to help them, nudge them along with a clear call to action. You'd do it very relevantly. You wouldn't do it a month later. You'd do it the next day, and you'd keep it fresh. So there's some steps. Again, I don't know how long this will continue to be relevant, because the personal information and our personal traffic on the web is continued to be a very developing space. So now I got 5 steps that I'll end here on the digital strategy. And the last is analytics. It's so easy to do. However, if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So on Google, for instance, which you can apply to any site that you would have, and you all are going to have a website now at some level, Here's at least 5 key stats. So users, new users versus returning users. Are they bouncing? So are they leaving your site? How quickly are they leaving your site? Where are they coming from? So, very important to think about from a backlinks and supporting that channel. And what's the flow? What's the flow through your site? This is how you educate. This is how you educate how they flow through your website, whether your website works well or not, is a direct reflection on how well they perceive you as an expert and how well your expertise is being taken, and whether or not you're solving their problem. So, not hard to do. It doesn't take a lot of time. Very, very important for you to do, to have a web strategy that works adequately in your new approach from going from the 4 Ps to save. So I'll wrap it up with a little list of homework and that I respectfully suggest for each of you. I didn't talk about business plans. It's assumed. Again, unfortunately, most of my experiences with SCORE and mentorship is the business plan is lacking. So maybe in here, there was some ideas to help with the thinking around what is the solution that you're pursuing and talking about that. What is your segmented customer base and how big is it? One of the most important things in a business plan is how many do you think you're going to sell? Well, if you're at the ice cream stand 2 blocks down the street from the high school and it's out in the middle of the country and the only traffic by the ice cream stand is those that are leaving when school lets out, there's the size of your market. And then it's something less than that because of the parents or the people that are driving, whether or not they're going to stop. And then it's something less than that by those that are actually interested in ice cream. So pretty quick, you can get to a number, an estimate of how many you think you can sell. This is a big challenge for everybody that thinks about a new business. What's the size of my market? Who might buy my solution? What's the likelihood I can get to them? That's the number that's what I'm trying to achieve. So use some of these thinkings in here to update your business plan. Optimize your website for mobile devices. Please spend time creating personas. This is an area that it is underwhelmed, but yet so important. It opens up ideas. It opens up ideas on what you could be doing for customers, and it gets your organization, your financial backers, your employees thinking the same way, and then challenging whether or not those assumptions are correct and if you're pursuing. So it's part of the business plan, but it's also part of your promotion strategy and how you're going to talk to those people through your website or whatever means you get to them. Create a journey map. Very important to know how you're going to, where you need to get people where they are. Be a thought leader. Again, I want to hopefully leave you with some personal confidence. You're pursuing something because you have a unique idea and some passion and some knowledge about it. Don't be bashful. Go ahead and put yourself out there. Start writing. Again, AI is amazing. I've played with it the last year or so. I've written some letters and asked AI to write a letter for me on a particular subject or area. I do a little grant writing for some volunteer organizations, and I've played with it. It continues to get better all the time. I'm not saying let AI be your thought leader, but boy, it can help you with maybe some word choice or some flow. Don't plagiarize it. Don't let it. I'm sure Google will penalize you for it because they're the ones that are providing it. But it can get you past some writer's blocks. So use the powers of that. You use the power of Google Analytics. It's all out there. It's free. Make sure you come back as a top, not just a page one, but the top return. That should be your goal. You should be the first return. And I don't think it's that hard. Unless you're selling automobiles because Ford has bought up and has more content and they're going to be the number one return. Unless you're pursuing that as a business model, you are probably carving out a place where you could be number one. Make content. It's not hard to do. Everything's at the tip of your fingers today. And then try this idea about retargeting customers down their journey. It works today. It might not work in the future, but you'll learn a lot from it. And you may gain some very valuable customers and sales from it. Hey, I just realized I looked at my clock. It's at the top of the hour. Bill, I'm going to pause there. I don't know how many folks are left. I'd be glad to take some questions or look at the chat. I've not seen that because it's off the side of my my pane. Oh, there's 35 chats in there. So I'm going to open this up. And I'm just gonna, so I see my email's been given out. Thanks, you're welcome. There's my contact. Thank you. Got me thinking. That's wonderful. YouTube. Yes, use YouTube. Yes, I agree with YouTube. Not sure. Think Reddit versus Google. Jordan, that's an interesting thought. I don't know a lot about that, and I haven't spent much time on that. I'm going to do a little into that. Thanks for your thought that you shared with the group. There's some CRM questions. I'll pass on that. Yes, you can buy Google Ads, but if you're like me, you're blind. I'm blind to Google Ads. That's just advertising. Just another form of advertising. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in finding the thought leadership, the expert on the problem that I have. Ooh, what strategies need to start an online mental health therapy practice? That's a big question. I'm going to pass on that one. Firm you founded with Mr. Sachs. Founded with, okay, I don't understand that comment. All right. Bill, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Appreciate the presentation you did for us, Paul, as always. Great job. I sent out a note to people that
Anybody there?
On the 29th at noon, we'll be doing another webinar on
Bill?
Make Your Website Work For You, be hosted by
Have we timed
Google
out?
instructor.
Well, I see Brian. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you write an AI blog. I'm suggesting you put AI in your word processor, use it to help you write your thoughts. Don't plagiarize it. But maybe it'll move you along and help you with sentence structure and an opening, a middle, and an ending. Don't just take it. Don't take the answer and go with it.
Well, we're at 3:06, Paul.
Somebody said down at the end, would you introduce a new product on social platforms before having inventory? You know, I'm a strong believer in testing the market, and you can do that a number of ways. You could be very transparent and say, you know, here's my concept, and I can have one or a prototype, or I'm going to take a pre-order. I'd prefer you have something that you can sell and put in their hands, because a pre-order, if you sell a pre-order to something you haven't made, you don't know what the acceptance is going to be to the physical thing that you then give them. So ideally, you're getting that item, that experience, you're getting that in their hand as quick as possible. It's not perfect. Get it in their hand. Give it to them for free to get their feedback if that's part of the bargain. Then build on that and say, well, now I know more and I'm more committed to my approach and I'm going to spend more money to do what I thought was a good idea. A pre-order implies that you've got everything figured out and it's relatively perfect. And now you're just collecting orders and you're going to make the thing and deliver it. So there's no testing of the market. There's no testing of the concept there. It just depends where you are. I have, so Stavros, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. I have 10,000 MOQs from my factory, Rock and a Hard Plate. I don't know what an MOQ is. I'm sorry. Minimum order. I have 10,000. Oh, well, fascinating. So there's got in today's world of prototyping and additive manufacturing. I mean, my daughter is in college, and I bought her a $400 printer, and it can print plastic, it can print metal. Let's make some slow without the tooling requirement, and continue to get confirmation. If you've got a something that's better than, if you've solved some big problem and it's a wonderful solution, and you can sell 10,000 of them, but you've done it through a couple dozen of them, now you can go and ask for some investment, because people will get behind that if you can demonstrate that you've done it. Don't let minimum order quantities keep you from launching. There's too many ways to prototype today.
Okay, Paul,
You're
thanks so
welcome.
much. Appreciate it very much. Great job.
Well, it's 10 after. There's still a couple questions coming in. I'll wait another moment or two. I appreciate everybody's time. I wish you all the best. It's my pleasure to get to do this. We had a pretty good group to start. I think there were about 80 people from all over the Midwest, perhaps.
We got up to 110.
And I'm always interested to see what others' thinkings are in these areas. So I wish you all the best. You've got my contact info. Thanks, Bill, for setting this up, and I will sign off. Goodbye,
Okay.
everyone.
Thanks so much, everyone.